Welcome to this week's episode. I'm Chris, I'm the host of Who's the Champ. You know, we're about to come up on a year celebrating Who's the Champ podcast right here on WCBD Plus streaming platform and also on YouTube. So when I started this, you know, you've heard me say several times, there's so many different people that I wanted to have on this show. And, you know, I talked about Papa Stroh. You know, I was able to have him, Rob Cullen. We did a full hour we did two shows with him. Absolutely great. You know, we've seen MLW, but there was one man I wanted to have on there because he's the outspoken. He's in my mind, a hardcore legend. One of my mentors in this business, in the ring, outside the ring, as a man himself. And as we're taping this, 5 years to the date, this is May 15th that we're taping this, 5 years to the date, I had the pleasure of inducting this man into the Carolina Wrestling Hall of Fame. I could tell you about all the championships he won, but right now, he is the current Battleground Championship Wrestling Palmetto State Champion. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome L.A. Tank, as I used to introduce him. Man, welcome to the show. I'm digging the shirt, man.
Thank you. Finally, I feel like I'm in the big time and made it through this show.
Finally, we got you in town. You know, BCW is, you know, as we're taping this, you know, big show tomorrow. But, you know, finally getting you back in town. Me and you've been friends, brothers in the business for going on almost 10, 11 years now.
Yeah.
And so I never really got we've gone out to dinner, we've talked stories, we've talked road stories, but I've never really got the full L.A. Tank story. So where did L.A. Tank start? Where'd you train at?
Back in Virginia, where I live at. It was a gentleman, how I started with this, I can truly say, I lived in Petersburg, and they had an indie show that came into town. And I turned around and had that night off from work, and I decided to go. Well, I went to the show, and probably like a week later, I happened to see one of the wrestlers up in Richmond at the time, and I walked into 7-Eleven. And then when I walked up in there, I seen him, and asked him, made him identify himself. He was kind of hiatus about doing it. But then he thought I was, I guess we call in the business a fan. And I asked him, how can you get in the wrestling business? And he looked at me, he was like, no, you don't want to do that. I was like, yeah, we want to do it. So he gave me a guy's number, and I wound up calling the guy like 24 hours later. And I went to his house, and his name was Philip Lee. He's deceased, but he went under total destruction. And he was a 454-pounder mass wrestler.
Wow.
And he had did a little work for the Crockett's, from what I understood. A couple of dark matches and all. And so I went to his house, and for actually 1 hour, almost, this man did everything he could to talk me of not getting into this business. And I couldn't figure out why. And I just got tired of answering the questions. I was like, look, I'm getting in this business whether you help me or somebody else help me. And I think that's what something he wanted to hear, because he was an old, gritty wrestler, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. He didn't, it's a lot that I've seen in the 31 years of this business that would make guys, he look at it like it's almost like a video game. Oh, I can do this. But the only thing people don't understand is saying you can do it and actually being in there and seeing the abuse your body go through and what you do for the fans, and also as a competitor, it's a different ball game. And I wound up going to a 6-month training camp with him. And I actually was so advanced, I only did 4 months. And I graduated early. And he brought me into the business, and this is a funny story about L.A. Tank bloopers. My first match was in Caroline County High School, Caroline, Virginia. And when it came time for me to go through the curtain, I had no clue that, again, wanted to do it as a fan, as a kid growing up seeing it, And when I peeked out the curtain before they introduced me, I happened to see all these fans there, and I froze. And he looked at me like, "What are you doing?" My music had started playing. I was like, "I'm not going out there." Well, I can truly say I got introduced to the crowd and to the world as a debut match with a foot in my behind because I got kicked out the curtain, through the curtain. And after that, I wrestled my match. I also wound up losing that my first match. And I think I was more nervous of worrying about the fans and all because it's a different ballgame. When you come through that curtain, you're the center of attraction, and everybody's looking at you because that ring is like, boom, there, and you in that ring. And I think from that point, even though I lost my match due to rookie mistakes that night, it gave me the drive that I wanted. It was a drive in me that came about. It was just like, honestly, I think you could truly say, it's like, this is like a brotherhood. Mm-hmm. And once you have that bug, I call it, and you have it that flowing through your veins, you really want to. It's like a drug. You will start keep doing it and doing it. And I just took it from there. And long story short, through all the crazy accolades and matches I've done, 31 years later, here I am.
So we talk, you just brought up about a brotherhood, and I think that's one of the great things that I've learned over the years. This year I celebrate 17 years in the business, and you speak of 31, and like we talked about, frankly, over dinner of like all the people that have come through.
Oh, wow, yes.
that you've dealt with, and there's one person in particular we're going to talk about a little bit later on that meant the world to me and you. So we'll sit down, we'll talk about him in just a second. But so you being in independence, you were a wrestler, a promoter, a booker, all these different things. As someone that's actually done it myself, and that's how we met, is when I first started, dealing with Battleground Championship Wrestling. Back in the day, it was Brewery Championship Wrestling. And we're going to talk about some of the the finer moments of BCW a little later on.
Right.
But the brotherhood that you had, there was a great team, a faction, if you want to call them, that you were a part of, the Guerrilla Squad. Can you speak a little bit about the Guerrilla Squad and what it meant to you at that time with them?
Oh, well, yeah, that's funny. When me and them guys met, me and the one, Michael Devine, we had already been friends for like over 10 years. And one, I'll be the first to say, anybody that know the true part of this business, if you really do obtain a friend, that's for real, because this is an ego-driven business where everybody's always want to be on top. And they would literally backstab each other in the back to be that top dog. And they happened to be booked on a show up in Wilmington, UPWA, United Pro Wrestling Association, ran by Don Brower. And they come walking in, and I see these two big, huge boys. And Mike had already told me about them, so we kind of knew of each other at that point, but we hadn't formally met. And of course, my man Ali, he was the first one to come by. "Oh, you the mighty Tank." And I looked at him, and I just looked him up and down and said, "Fee, 5, 4, fum, and you the mighty Ali." And he looked at me and grinned. He said, "Oh, I like you. You got spunk." I said, "What, I'm supposed to not?" And we hit it off, and make a long story short, it was just like, I guess, a filling process where we had convinced, we wound up having mutual enemies at the point in time. Mm-hmm. And we kind of wound up, by accident, getting thrown together in matches. And afterwards, we later started bonding, and I can't say he said bonding, but it got to the point where it was like best for business for both of us. And they had already had the group established. And they had went through like 1 or 2 members. That didn't last long. So when it came along, one of the co-founders, Ollie Steele, he come to me and said, "Hey, man, I want to talk to you." He said, I know you got a well-documented singles career. He said, I think you'd be a good asset to the squad. He said, how do you feel about it? I was me. I'm like, let's get it. No matter. I don't care. Because I was feeling it at the same time, and we took off from that point on. And we actually, and no matter what nobody want to say, and this is one thing you'll find out in this business is a lot of guys that do a lot of talking. But on video footage, it proves what we can do and how we done. And we, at the time, was the only 4-man dominant team. And we remained the only 4-man dominant team on the Indies for a total of 13 years.
Wow.
Before other fractions of guys started popping up, like 2 or 3s, or maybe 3 or 4s. But the problem was, and I'm not knocking none of the teams, it's one thing for that length of time to go and say, okay, we'll group. But as of right now, all the remaining members is actually not wrestling no more. I'm the only dummy that's still wrestling. And I still hold that Gorilla Squad code to T. And I still represent the Gorilla Squad on it. But for a team that was established way back in the early 2000s, and I know myself, I've been a member, even with the other guys, has come out, been roughly about over 20 years. And the main point I'm getting at is a lot of teams that has came, we felt was duplicates, but they only came and come. Here it is over 20 years later, even with the group now is not a group, that name is still spoke. It is still spoken on different cards. Where guys in their early primes, when they was rookie, seen us, and it was like, wow, them dudes there. And it's just like the deal that happened to CM Punk when he left the WWE, and for years they chanted his name. For a fact, I know for a fact, anybody see me on a card, the first thing they associate with me is Gorilla Squad.
Yeah.
And that, to me, means a lot. That means we 4 did something that was so good that is still recognized as of today. And like doing the other groups, did we have problems? Yeah, the individual members have bump heads, yeah. Majority of the time I played the referee, even though if you looked at me in the group, I was the worst one out of the 3. Probably the meanest one that probably, I guess being the shorter, wider one, I wasn't tall as the other 3 were. But, I kept us, I did my part to keep us together. I mean, along with the other help of another member or so. But the one thing we never did was we could have arguments or beef with us, with each other inside of the group, but we never put it out there to the general public or let it get put in the general public because we always knew somebody wanted to see us fail. And
That's a good comparison. I like that.
I mean, and that was the truth, honestly.
Yeah.
That was the truth. That's one code I can truly say all 4 of us, we live to up to today. If we would just say me and somebody else was just going at it, which was very rare at all. Individually, behind the scenes, we probably want to beat the hell out of each other, but in the general public's eye, we were still a well-oiled unit. We always put our differences aside and we came down to doing business. And business was when time to go work, make that money, go in that ring, and do whether we beat the snot out of somebody that night or not, we still work together as a well-oiled machine. And then we go back to the locker room, then hate each other then afterwards.
And I've actually seen that in person. I've been to a couple of UPWA shows where the Gorilla Squad was on the card. That's the only time I've really seen the Gorilla Squad together besides tape but y'all might have had some heated discussions backstage, but once y'all came through that curtain, it was a tight-knit group, and your opponents felt like they were about to get their heads taken off. I mean, your
Which
matches,
they really did.
which they did. And I mean the pit bulls that y'all faced during the time at UPWA. You know, Soul Patrol, which you've done. You know, how many ever different versions of Soul Patrol there was. There's always that collective unit of the Gorilla Squad. It was you three, you four, and no one else. Like there wasn't anyone plugged in. Maybe for a night someone was plugged in, but y'all were a collective unit that's not really seen that much. Y'all were individuals thinking collectively.
Yeah, and everybody had their own part in it, and that was the funny part about it, because Ali was the enforcer, Bully was the bully,
Right.
Michael was the cowboy, and me, I was the hangman. So everybody, you had four unique different talents, really had different styles of wrestling, and it all bonded together. It was like just like a car you got to break in.
Right.
And once it broke in, it was like literally when we showed up on shows, even though the promoters booked us, no matter what, and I'm not saying we walked around like bad behind, like we were bullies, but you could tell the difference when we walked in locker rooms.
Absolutely.
That they looked in like, oh boy, all four of them here together. They automatically knew somebody was
You commanded the room when you walked in. Without saying anything, you commanded the room.
And we did, but we were respectful guys. Mm-hmm. All of us was, and I'd be the first to throw it out. Am I the bad guy? No, but I was more or less like the hothead out the bunch, because I commanded that respect for us. Even though the group had the respect, I commanded that respect, and you'd be surprised. It was a lot of guys that felt that we had glass jaws. And when they found out different, it was like hope. It was just like I poked the bear and I wish I hadn't poked it.
Absolutely.
And and we really didn't have problems, but everywhere you gonna go somewhere, somebody's gonna have a different opinion of you. But we did what we had to do as a collective unit, and we stuck to that bond, and it made us a successful multi-time tag champion. Of course, in my case, I already had a rack of single titles. I think the one thing they were concerned about at first with me, because when they met me, I was a highly decorated singles champion. But in my early years of my wrestling, when I first started off, I was a tag wrestler. And I went through like 3 partners. I don't know what it was. It wasn't nothing I was doing. It just either they had family problems or physical problems or whatever, but I wound up being a tag wrestler. And I eventually went from tagging to singles, and I indulged myself into the singles career. And I think it was a big challenge for me going back from singles to tag. When I'm used to just dealing with it on my own, I had somebody else I could tag in to get a piece of that pie.
Absolutely.
And I enjoyed it.
We were just talking about the Gorilla Squad and everything. And one of the things that I've seen up close and in person is the Gorilla Squad can walk out, be completely booed until they see you. That's also happened here in Charleston and BCW. As a booker and a promoter, I've tried so much over these past few years to get you booed. You were part of a group called Diverse Effect, yes, with the late, great David Kerr, the Amazing Velvet, Big Game James, yourself, and your tag team partner right now, Big Mike Fox. Yes. I've tried everything in the world for that crowd to hate you besides slapping someone's grandmother. What is the draw of L.A. Tank to the fans that you just cannot be hated?
Well, the only thing I can take out of it, from what I've seen, I'm just me as an individual there. You have, and I don't normally rather say this, you have Latour, which is my first name,
right,
and you have L.A. Tank. 2 same guys. One is different from the other, but both have a mutual thing of being their self. And I would say this, the late, Dusty Rhodes. I had opportunity to be on a couple of shows with him and on a company up in the southeastern part of North Carolina called All Star Pro Wrestling. And that promoter had booked him a couple of times. And I always looked at Dusty when I had a chance to talk to him, and I will be the first to say, this long before he went back to the WWE and NXT was created. He told me then, and I was somewhat that way, but after talking and being a mentor on the shows I've seen him, he told me, he said, look here, fella. He said, no matter what you do, the ones you have to please is two people. You have to please yourself, and you have to figure out a way to please that crowd, because that crowd is who pays you. And I look at how well Dusty was over with the crowd. No matter what Dusty did, he was always over. So I kind of took a page and started looking at him and looking at others, and I was trying to figure out what I can do to do this and that, until one day I just gave up trying to rack my head and say, you know what? I'm going to be me. And being me so far have made me lovable and have got me over with the fans, which I'm very appreciative. Don't get me wrong, because no matter what you do, like you see, you have some guys who just out the door, you can't, no, it's just like a blown tire. It don't work. With me, and I don't know how many fans will see this, no matter what I've done, my fans, I have a real good following in the Carolinas and back in Virginia, because of this area, definitely because I live in that 3-state range.
Right.
That has followed me and has showed me nothing but love and respect. And even when I've been in public, like the last time I was spotted was in Alet, Virginia, for a company that wound up making me one of their icons. Which was Classic Pro Wrestling. And it was funny because we left the show, and I had my wife and my son with me, and we went to a cookout, a sit-down version of a cookout. Mm-hmm. And we were sitting there eating, and my wife just looked at me across the table and started smirking. So I figured I might have had some mustard or something on my lip or something. And she was like, hey, I think you just got spotted. So when I looked at her, I was like, what do you mean spotted? Like, fans spotted? She was like, yeah, I think some kids at the show seen me. Yeah, and that's the one thing I never done. And when she told it to me, so I was like, okay. So I went in and took another bite of my burger, heard and swallowed it. And I turned back around, and one of the kids was like, it is him, it is him. So I knew then. I was like, yeah, I just got made. And I was a bad guy there.
Right.
And it was funny, I don't know what it is with my charisma, and I'm so blessed I have it, that no matter what, the fans have really enjoyed me and have really supported me 100 and month support complete. So when I have a fan that see me in public, the one thing I'm not going to do is be rude and disrespectful.
Absolutely.
And I think that has also helped me, because there's been a lot of guys I've seen in the industry that has been champions. They are real conceited, and I get it. When you're away from the industry or away from the ring, you do want your privacy. Yeah, at the end of the day, you're just like any other human being. But at the same time, you got to understand what you put yourself in, that type of environment. Being on TV or being in the ring, being whatever, people see you, you're in the eye of the public. So by rights, you do have to conduct yourself that way in a certain way. And I've never been rude to none of my fans. No matter if my dinner's been interrupted or I just been seen. Actually, the most funny thing, I will say this much. Me and my wife was on a cruise last year. Daggone it, if I did not have a fan in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean recognize me as a wrestler and knew who I was, because they had seen me perform back in Virginia.
Wow. Okay.
And that was the most interesting part. We was in the middle of the Atlantic going down to the Bahamas. And this general is just sitting out on the deck talking, and generally is talking, and wound up finding out it was a fan that had spotted me and knew exactly who I was. And it was a female that was watching her. Because it kind of made me feel a little creepy because she was just sitting there watching me and my wife, and I'm just like, are we gonna get mugged on the ship or what? You know what I'm saying?
Does she not realize your wife's crazy? You know, she better watch it.
Well, believe it, you know, and this is the funny thing, and I will say this, and I hope this don't be too bad on your podcast. If you see me and my wife in public, you could tell we together, but you wouldn't tell whether we're husband and wife. But at the same time, you have to really know us.
Right.
But don't get me wrong, like you said, if she has that woman instinct, if she feel her territory is being threatened, she'll let me know who I am to her real quick. I will say that. You know what I'm saying? And it's funny. And she didn't pay attention to my wife. She just kept spotting. She just kept this laser focus on me. And I wound up talking to another guy that had an RVA wrestling shirt on him. And I thought he may have been a staff and all. And she overheard me talking to this guy. And once she started hearing me talk, that following night, I found out from the guy I was talking to that as soon as I got up and left, she went straight to him and started talking to him about me. And this dude found out every day about me within an hour after I had left him on the deck of that ship. Then that little, 30, 40 minutes I was talking to him. And he later seen me the next morning and go, yeah, I know you're a wrestler because I had a lady as soon as you left. She started telling me about all your matches, and I'm going like, what lady is this? I'm in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. The last thing I expected is a Earl fan over there. And it was funny, I actually wound up walking into another wrestler from up north, and I walked into another younger wrestler that was from the Tidewater area of Virginia. And it was just comical, and just, again, once I found out who she was kind of hesitant about saying something to me. Mm-hmm. Once I found out who she was and she kind of identified herself, but I just should tell you right now, if she was present, I walked up to her just as nice and started speaking to her. We actually got to joking, and she wound up being one of my deck buddies, me and my wife deck buddies while we was there on the ship. It seemed like we all would meet up on the top of the deck of the ship at the same time. And like I said, at the end of the day, I just never disrespected the fans, but you know, the one day I'm still questioning 30-some years later than a boat, and I know I'm going to get it tomorrow. I don't know what it is. It's just me being me. Mm-hmm. I think I have that special connection with the fans, and I will never do nothing to destroy it, because at the end of the day, I got into this business as a fan myself. And now here I am, a grown adult, got 31 years in, and it's funny. I feel like I'm a modern old wrestler because I have fans that still love me, no matter what. I can literally go out there and beat the living hell out of somebody or beat them with a chair or whatever, and you sing for yourself. I won't get booed. And I think the worst thing of all was mention what you said, the match tonight, me and Big Game James happened to be against Soul Patrol.
Yeah.
And that was the most comical thing to even have on footage, because they had went out, their interest was out there before ours, and they literally had the fans going. And as soon as my music hit, they knew who was coming. And as soon as I walked through that curtain, that whole fan base, was said, Soul Patrol had, they were dead man walking. Because they automatically got targets and bullseyes painted on them by the fans themselves. And I don't know, but I'm very appreciative that I have that gift, and I hope I continue to have that gift, because even you know yourself, I've had to a point of maybe a 7 or 8 month hiatus from down here in South Carolina. And as soon as my name is mentioned on a poster, boom, tickets are selling. As soon as they see me in person, people are around me left and right.
Absolutely. I mean, when we first announced that we were doing, I had Jackson on the show, a few months back when we first announced about the show, and everyone was just like, "Is LA Tank coming? Is LA Tank coming? LA Tank's coming." You are the Palmetto State heavyweight champion, and we're going to talk about that special moment here in just a second. So before we transition to that, I got to ask you, we're talking about 31 years in the business.
Yeah.
5 years ago, I had the pleasure of inducting you into the Hall of Fame. Do you think at that time that you should have been inducted into the Hall of Fame? Are you one of those people that say that, I don't belong? Because if I remember correctly, you're in the Carolina Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame and you're also in the UPWA Hall of Fame, correct?
Yeah, y'all made South Carolina, so I basically took Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina by myself. I can truly say that. I really took 3 states. And in the wrestling business, you want to just get one Hall of Fame induction. I went to 3 states and took them off the bat. And honestly, truthfully, the first one, I was kind of surprised when it was told to me. I thought the promoter was BSing, and that was Don. And Don, when the night of the Hall of Fame, I showed up with my wrestling gear. I was ready to fight that night. Of course, that was the first time I ever got told I won't go be able to wrestle because I was in the Hall of Fame induction. I was in the Hall of Fame. And he made sure I couldn't even pick a fight with nobody that night because he had threatened to fire people if anybody got in the ring against me that night. And it was funny because I didn't take it serious. So when I took it the first time, it was kind of humbling, but it was kind of like, wow, to accomplish that so young in my career and see guys that had been in way longer than me had never even got it. And it was like, wow, what did I do special that they didn't do? And there's still guys that's been in the business way longer than me. That's very few that's floating around now. That have, whether they're not, obviously not working, but right. Be behind the scenes that still have not got that recognition. And to get it, I was kind of humble. So here comes number 2. And I'm like, number 2 is in Virginia. So I'm sitting there going like, okay, maybe my hard work and my labor as fruits is paying off. Then here come the phone call from you guys for number 3. And I'm sitting there going like, okay. Now, y'all was number 2. I did it back. Y'all was number 2. So I'm sitting there going like, okay, somebody trying to tell me something. It's like time to go sit down somewhere or what? And I just kind of took back. And the gentleman, I know we were talking about Velvet, better known as David Kerr. I called him, and he'd tell you, I was like, dude, what's the deal? How did I wind up getting put in this position? And he was like, what do you mean? He was like, how did I get put in this position to be, even considered to this? He was like, well, dumb. And that was the deal. If you said it's something stupid, he'll let you know it. He was like, well, dumb. It's called getting the fruits of your hard work.
Absolutely.
He said, you have put blood, sweat, and tears in everything you have in this industry. You have what they call the living proof of what the standard of wrestlers was supposed to be like versus this new generation now. He said, you're honorable, you have integrity, you live, sleep, and you die by this industry. I was like, well, that's what you're supposed to do. He said, correct. He said, so I didn't see no reason why I shouldn't be proven to give it to you because you really have earned it. Now, I'm not giving it to you, you have earned it. And I was like, wow. So by this point, it took a little bit for me to absorb it a little bit. And then once you presented it to me the day of the show, actually, be honest with you, my wife would tell you, I was kind of a nervous wreck day. That was the only time I could truly say anything dealing with this industry other than my first time having my first match. I was literally a nervous wreck, but I wasn't showing it. But deep down inside, man, I was bad. I was bad, worse than a person with fucking blurry vision and everything. I was a nervous wreck because it was just, I didn't know how to take it. I didn't. But I took it with strive and just took my chin up and said, okay, it's being handed to you for a reason. You just don't question it and go with it,
When David Kerr first came to me about this Hall of Fame induction, we sat down and it's like, who should the first class be? And to believe it or not, Dave did not want to go in. He felt like he the first three names that came up, L.A. Tank, Susan Green, Papa Stroh. Because we were looking at who made the biggest impact in BCW and in the Carolinas. Susan Green has a resume by herself.
Yeah.
Papa Stroh has a resume by himself. And you came right then and there when it happened. It's like your name was the first one spelled out. And I looked at Dave and I said, you need to go in. I'm like, you need your time to talk. L.A. Tank needs his time. Papa Stroh needs it. Susan needs it. I said, because this Hall of Fame will be so much different than anything else, because I felt that this Hall of Fame was about the love of what y'all brought to the Carolinas and everything. And that was the one thing that we said a lot. It was the love. You know, as much as I love putting you and Papa Stroh in the ring together, I absolutely love doing that. You know, great memories with you and Susan Green in the ring. We also got the chance to induct, you know, Michael Devine as well, another gorilla. Unfortunately, he was unable to be there, but he did have his induction speech.
Yes, he did.
And so we were able to, in my mind, the two people that I wanted to, the four, honestly, that I really wanted to show praise to was the Amazing Velvet, yourself, Papa Stroh, and Susan Green, because I felt like, not that y'all were not going to get your flowers, y'all deserve to get, and it's different from getting like the Cauliflower Alley Club or anything like that, where it's your peers, but it's people that you've actually worked next to, that see what you do behind the scenes, what you do in the ring, those hour-long phone calls, you know, just sitting around BSing after a show. I mean, how many baby mamas do you have right now? I mean, I can think of 3 or 4 right now that like all of our girlfriends and wives become your baby mamas. You know, we're a family.
For the record, I only have one. You know, in our case, he's grown. He's 21 years old, but yeah, I can truly say, and you know, and that was one of the days Velvet, you know, he brought to me in his later days, asked me a favor, you know, when it came to his wife Dawn and his kids, was like, hey, if certain things happen to me, I expect you to do this. And I asked him one day why, and he said the same thing. He said, dude, you're more like family than anybody. He said, I will feel more comfortable with you than I can tell certain Joe Blow, and they'll start off with it and eventually fade away.
Yeah.
He said, you'll keep on it, and I have trust for you, and I don't have to worry about the dumb stuff. I mean, because it's just, again, me being me as a person. You know, every day these days time, and I think you agree, we see people do a lot of silly stuff, a lot of stuff that shake your head, a lot of stuff that make the media or news that shouldn't be, but you don't have nobody out here no more with integrity.
No.
You know, you could be out here on the street bleeding from an accident. Somebody rather pull out a phone, the video footage, rather than to help you take the integrity and say, hey, let me help this person. This is somebody's family member that has had an incident. You know, rather than to do ratings. And I think that's my problem. I've never been a selfish guy. And just for some reason, and I think I blame my parents for me being the type of guy I am, not being selfish, because I came from a family of four siblings, and we, believe it or not, you know, my family just as crazy with drama behind it like everybody else's, but we wasn't allowed to be selfish. We was made to share. We was made to always look out for the other one, regardless. Now, I don't know how naturally everybody got older, but I kept that integrity in the T, and I try to raise that into my son, my last son. Because, and I actually have it in my other 2 kids from a previous marriage. So, you know, I can't complain. I kind of feel like I've been blessed, you know, and I think everything that ever came to me, it was like it's just like I always have earned everything I've gotten. nobody has never given it to me, just like you said then, And I laugh when you say about that group, and you really look back at that class I was in, literally, if you look at the history of each individual that was on that on that Hall of Fame stage that night, every last one of us had contributed some way, form, or fashion to the industry.
Absolutely.
And it was all behind with love behind it. And again, like I said, being this is an ego-driven business because you got everybody who's want to be on the top dog, want to be this and that. But I think in order today, and any of the guys that will see this, I used to tell them, if you give, you're going to receive. But if you give not looking to receive nothing, everything's going to come your way. And that's what I've always done. I never handed my hand out. I've had promoters out of the blue come to me about championship matches. And then the first thing that came out of my mouth, and it's funny. You can truly say, I never came at you that much, but first time I would go, okay, what about this belt? How much money I make out the deal? That was the first thing I always holler, how much money I make out the deal. And it was like, well, I don't care about the belt. I care about the money. And I always said that because I just wanted to cover my expenses.
Right.
And I seen guys come in, even nowhere near the caliber wrestler I am, and want to come in demanding high money, and I just look at y'all promoters and go, yeah, this one is not going to make, he's not going to make this little. Then y'all book him against a person like me or somebody else that was a heavy hitter, and okay, you won't disprove it. And they never could prove it. And the sad part about it, I've seen a lot of them come in this industry, like you said earlier. I mean, some of the best guys in the world have had the best talent, will go beyond the WWE. Mm-hmm. But they couldn't last it because they didn't have the right attitude. The right attitude was gone from the get-go. Now, I will truly say, I knew him under another wrestler, but he goes under the tag team of FTR, Dax Hollywood.
Right.
Me and him met each other in the early part of our stages of our career at UPWA. Of course, him and the promoter wound up not getting along, but I'm so proud to see Dax, what he's doing now. He's steady making the name for himself. One of my members of the Grill Squad was in his wedding when he got married. And of course, I heard we had mention of each other, and we kind of had a little speaking of each other. I would love to see him, to see how he's doing. And, it'd be just like I said, a bunch of old fox catching up together. We'd have a little talk time at the round table. And, and I'm so proud of what he's got going on for himself now. And the sad part about it, I don't know who will see this, but the one thing I will say with that promoter, Mr. Brower, I watched them two guys have fights all the time behind the scene. But look at him now. But in Don's defense, there's a lot of guys that never liked Don as a promoter, but Don has produced a lot of talent from UPWA that has went to the WWE, TNA, and AEW.
Absolutely.
And I will give, no matter what the chaos was behind the scenes, I will give Don Brower his due on that. He has had guys that has come to his stable at his company that has went to the big time. Now, afterwards, I don't know how the relationship is afterwards, but, they do keep in contact some way, form, or fashion, And I'm a product of that also. So, that's why I sit back and, I don't know, I just be humble and be me. And I know, like, tomorrow, I got to get in here at my age, as, I heard on a promo a while back with WWE, you get a bunch of them, when you get a little gray in your hair, they call you old man. And I've seen them about twice my size, cut up like a bull. I get in the ring, and boy, they get beat up in 5 minutes, and I'm like, all that weightlifting, and you still ain't got no sense.
Absolutely.
So I would sit back and see, but I try to stay striving as much as I can. I'm eventually going to be hanging this up, not because I'm not functioning. It's my time to move forward eventually, so the new generation that I've kind of helped do my part in paving the path can hopefully take it to another level.
I love the fact that you just said that. This is a great segue into the last thing we're going to talk about. The last show that we had, you got a little agitated with me because that was supposed to be your planned retirement match, and I told you it was either leading up to it or it was the actual day of that you were going to leave that day as the Palmetto State Heavyweight Championship.
Yes.
That belt meant so much to someone very close to us, David Kerr, the Amazing Velvet. And we're gonna talk about the last part of the show about him. I still carry him with me. I still have my wristband. I wear it every single day. And if people have followed me on social media, they seen some of the announcements that I've made. And I couldn't do what I'm able to do now. I wouldn't have this podcast right now if it wasn't for the Amazing Velvet. Just a short little story. I grew up watching him. I used to joke around saying, I used to watch you when I was your height. If you never seen the Amazing Velvet, he's a little dude. Yeah. But he might have been a little guy, but he wrestled, and the aura and the attitude, he was 7 feet tall. He was 500 pounds. He was solid steel, sex appeal. Like he used to say about Big Game James, twisted steel and sex appeal.
And it was funny, you're right, because I think Dave technically, actually, his height was 5'7", 5'8".
Something like that, yeah.
And I've seen him walk in a locker room and pick a fight with a dude probably 6'6", 6'7", 5 times his size, and wouldn't back down, and would knock that big dude on his behind in the locker room in front of everybody. It's just like he'll pick the biggest dog in the room to pick a fight with, and he will bully that dog. And I'm just sitting there like, what the hell is this little dude, man? What is he doing? He doing too much. And you're right. Dave, me and Dave history together goes hard. I mean, and that was, like I said, when you get a true friend in this industry, which is very hard, it's like winning a lottery number to get a true friend in this industry due to the type of industry it is. Me and Dave got a chance to see each other young, have cookouts family times. I'll travel here to this state, or he'll travel to my state just to have a cookout. And we'll watch each other kids grow up, get out of school, go to college. And, I talked to his daughter on the way coming here tonight. And God knows, I watched that girl grow all the way up from elementary school to middle school to high school. Went through college, now she's out of college. And you talking about somebody that really kind of feel like an old daddy himself. And I just talked to her tonight, and tomorrow night after this show, I'm going to be winding up having dinner with her and her mom. And, with Dave had that personality. He told it to you like it was. Yeah. And he never liked to deal with people, as he called it, was a bunch of fake butts, because I'm trying to curb the language. He'll let you know what he thought about you if you was kind of fake about it. And he didn't surround himself around people like that. And Dave was very reserved on who he really put close to him on his inner circle. And having a close friend like that, and to lose him to cancer was hard, because I got to be that same type of guy, reserved, or having certain people around me. And he was one of the very few that I can truly say friends. And I have lost a lot of friends in 30-some year career of mine that, 1 minute you're on the phone talking to them, 2 days later they dead. And that might be due to a health issue or something. And his was kind of hard when I got that phone call that night. It was. And the one that called me was his actual daughter that I talked to. And she was like, look, I need you to sit down. I need to talk to you. And I'm like, I knew then. I said, what's wrong with him? And that's what she had told me what had happened. And, yeah, that one kind of set me down because it's just like true friends. Eventually you're going to have to move forward in life. And all the remaining 3 guys, including yourself, of the Guerrilla Squad, if something happens, it's going to hit me hard because, again, to obtain true friends, and I say true friends that, you sit down, not just we come in and have a couple of conversations, do the show, we go past beyond the show. Behind the scenes, we'll have get-togethers, don't have to have nothing to do with wrestling at all. We're just like old family style cookouts or family get-togethers. And, it becomes a different ball game then because my wife used to say, well, I'll let you go talk to your friends. Y'all gonna be a bunch of women, chatting with each other. So, and she would be right. But we'll be playing catch up with my associates. But with actual true friends, I'll be on the phone talking to them.
Yeah.
And one you mentioned it's a real good close friend of mine. And truthfully, very truthfully, this is real talk. And everybody can heard this on the podcast. It was Rob Keller, Stroh. Me and Stroh, when we first met each other, we kind of gave each other respect, but we didn't really like each other. I don't know, it was something about him I didn't like, and I guess it was something about me he didn't like. And eventually, we wound up crossing paths, and boy, that path took us on a 3-year battle with each other. I think we got to the point we beat respecting to each other. And since then, Rob have had to leave out the industry due to personal issues and everything, and I kept up with him. And God knows, to have a WCW legend like him come along, and it's very few times you can truly say you see guys from that era that you have a respect for. You know what I'm saying? Or you wind up becoming a good friend with them. And, yeah. Me and Stroh, he'd be another one because I know as of the day he go through it, me and him actually talked while I was on the road today via Messenger. And me and him normally do talk to each other at least about once or twice a week. Or no, once or every 2 weeks we'll have a conversation, even if it's not through Messenger. And the thing I'm trying to get at is when you get guys like that, same name like Dave, which is a true friend, the respect level there, and it goes personal, real personal. It goes beyond the business. And I think that's the best reward out of all of it because just like you, yeah, I can sit back and quit wrestling today or tomorrow. I'm going to do the same thing like I would normally do. What's up, Adam? What's good, bro? What's good? I'm going to just call you out the blue on your personal and shoot the crap with you for a while.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of guys in this industry I have their personal numbers with that I won't do that to. And it's just because they're associates. I don't foresee them being friends because I just feel that I'm better than them. It just eventually they will get to wherever they need to get in life and I'll be forgotten about. So rather than to be forgotten about, I'd rather be associates with them until that time come. But like I said, true friends, nah. As my wife would say, we always talk on the phone and go for hours and hours and gossip. And I don't mind having my little gossip talk time, table time with my friends.
Absolutely.
Because it's very hard to find them, especially in this industry.
That is absolutely true. Tank. Oh man, we almost went an hour, man.
I know.
And this is exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to have you in here just so we could talk. And there's so many different things that we didn't get the chance to get to, and we will. You'll be back. We'll have you for another show. We'll get you back. Heck, I can even do it through Zoom and everything. But it's so great to have you in the studio because I've been wanting to show you this place for 15 years now. So finally, you know, I'm here. Before we close everything.
Man, hell, I don't want to feel special. I kind of feel like my first day in school because I'm on finally Who's the Champ show. And you don't understand that this thing go out worldwide. This thing called the internet. And now I'm telling my age as a wrestler. We didn't have that when I came into wrestling business. We had MySpace. Facebook wasn't even created when I first started wrestling.
No, it wasn't.
You know, and yes, 1995. Anybody want to know? Yes. I know, and I look at how technology has developed. And you have had a lot. And I've always called myself, and you'll laugh when I say this, I've always called myself the ghost. And most people go, hey, did you see so-and-so? And I was like, yeah, I seen it. Why you didn't respond? Well, because I see it, that don't mean I need to respond.
Exactly.
If I need to respond to something, I'm going to pick up the phone and call that person individually. Because I never believe in the internet, which, you know,
you're not a keyboard warrior. There's a lot of them these days.
Yeah, and honestly, dude, you've had a lot of WWE, TNA, and AEW talent, along with indie talent, / WCW, ONWA talent on this show.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like I made the cut. I finally made the show. So, you know, and I've been knowing you've been wanting it. It was a scheduling thing, but I'm so blessed that you had me here.
Absolutely.
God knows. And at the same time, I get to sit back and, you know, everybody get to see these straps. That's going to be defended. Well, at least this one is tomorrow. This one going to be defended tomorrow. This one, I get to find out who's my Nate's little victim for #1 contender. Because I want him to understand that Papa still got some in the tank. So whoever come tomorrow better come correct. Because he's going to have a lot of beef right here to get through.
Absolutely. And that's a great way to end everything. You know, everyone, thank you for joining me for Who's the Champ this week. You know, want to thank L.A. Tank for joining me. You know, we got a little crowd over here in the side. There's just, the girls are just rolling their eyes at us and just laughing because they know us two together we're a trip. And the fun's even after I stop hitting record. So once again, thank you everyone for joining me on WCBD Plus. If you missed a chance to see it live, it'll be on YouTube come Monday. Come see some of the old shows. Papa Stroder, we just talked about Raquel. You know, that's on there. Court Bauer, a lot of MLW stuff going on. So once again, thank you everyone for joining me, and we will see you next week.